Forget everything you've been told about Judgment Day. What if the afterlife is nothing like religion warned? Imagine facing every action you've ever taken, but not to be punished. Instead, to feel and know every emotion you ever sparked in others, as if you lived their experience. This isn't about shame. It's the ultimate unveiling of your true legacy. The secret Seth revealed will turn every idea you have about death upside down, and what you learn could transform how you live right now. Stay with this video until the very end, because you may well have clicked on this video for a reason beyond your comprehension, and it's your soul that's hungry to find out more. Let's begin. What if death isn't an abrupt departure, but a careful unraveling? Seth describes something called the silver cord, not as a physical tether, but as a luminous channel of connection binding consciousness to the body. This isn't instantaneous severing. It's slow uncoupling. Medical observations show dying patients often experience a withdrawal process. Vital signs fade while awareness continues. The silver cord thins gradually, allowing consciousness to detach in stages rather than sudden rupture. Those revived from clinical death frequently report watching their bodies from above before returning. Near-death accounts describe this extended awareness window. People recall conversations happening around their unresponsive bodies with perfect accuracy. Some report seeing deceased loved ones appearing before their heart stops beating. This matches hospital records of patients correctly recounting events that occurred after medical staff declared them clinically unresponsive. The dying process resembles waking from a dream, where you exist in two states simultaneously before fully emerging into one. As the silver cord thins, perceptions split between physical sensation and expanded awareness. Bodily pain often vanishes first, while consciousness expands outward. Many report enhanced mental clarity even as organ failure progresses. This phased transition serves an important purpose. Sudden severance from the body would create psychological shock. The gradual withdrawal allows orientation to the new state. Like learning to swim, the spirit adapts through stages of immersion rather than being thrown into deep water. The silver cord maintains connection until consciousness stabilizes in its new form. As perception shifts, the cord grows more translucent until it naturally dissolves once complete detachment occurs. This explains why resuscitated patients describe being pulled back through a tunnel. It's the silver cord reconnecting them to the physical vessel. Imagine easing out of tight clothing rather than having it torn off. That's how Seth describes conscious death. The process allows integration of the transition at each stage. There's no violent rupture, only increasing freedom from material constraints. This changes everything about how we view death, not as an ending, but as careful migration from one state to another. The silver cord ensures stability during transfer of awareness from dense physical reality to subtler dimensions of existence. Your consciousness doesn't blink out, it graduates. Different traditions report similar phenomena without the silver cord terminology. Tibetan Buddhism describes this same gradual transition through bardo states. Near-death research documents consistent patterns across cultures of extended awareness after clinical death. These all point to a structured release process rather than instant annihilation. The implications are profound. If consciousness withdraws gradually, then dying may involve conscious participation rather than passive surrender. Certain meditation practices attempt to simulate this deliberate detachment. Perhaps we can train for our eventual transition, just as athletes train for performance. Now consider what this means for those final moments at a deathbed. Conversations may still register with the departing consciousness. Last words could land more deeply than we realize. That final heartbeat may not mark the true moment of departure at all. Your experience immediately following death is uniquely personal and shaped by your expectations. Seth illustrates how your deepest beliefs act as invisible architects, crafting the landscape of your afterlife experience. Various religious traditions describe this phenomenon in different ways. For example, Christians may encounter Jesus, while Hindus might meet Yamraj, and Buddhists could perceive the Bardo states. Each individual's experience corresponds to their worldview, as research on near-death experiences shows a consistent pattern across cultures. A devout Christian child might envision pearly gates, while a Tibetan monk may see clear light. Importantly, this doesn't imply that each tradition merely offers fragmented information about the afterlife. The more profound insight is that consciousness inherently shapes experiences that align with its expectations. Early encounters after death serve as psychological transition spaces, using familiar symbols to facilitate the adjustment process. For instance, an atheist might find themselves in a void or a white room, while a nature enthusiast could wander into luminous forests. These initial environments serve a provisional purpose. Similar to training wheels on a bike, belief structures provide temporary stability before revealing more intricate realities. Many people report that their surroundings become increasingly fluid the longer they are detached from physical existence. Fixed religious imagery often shifts into pure energy landscapes over time. This transformation operates through the principles of expectation and resonance. Conscious awareness gravitates toward what it recognizes. Just as dreams rely on personal symbolism, the afterlife uses culturally relevant metaphors to maintain continuity in experience. Research indicates that devout individuals from different faiths enjoy their unique encounters for varying lengths before moving towards similar expansive states. A key distinction here is that these belief-formed realities are not mere illusions. They are authentic experiential states generated by consciousness itself. Rather than projecting onto an external afterlife, your mind creates the very environment you inhabit. This explains the hyper-real quality many report in their near-death experiences, which feel more vivid than a dream. The duration of the transition can vary among individuals. Some might quickly shift from belief-based environments to more abstract realms of pure consciousness, while others may navigate several symbolic landscapes as their awareness expands. Trauma survivors often experience longer stabilization periods before they progress beyond initial imagery. Your expectations significantly influence how disorienting this transition is. Those who view death as annihilation might encounter void states briefly, while those who anticipate judgment may create self-imposed trial scenarios. The fear itself can mold the experience into something frightening. This principle extends beyond religious beliefs into psychological patterns as well. Individuals with deep-seated guilt may manifest atonement scenarios, while those grappling with attachment issues might experience separation. The subconscious externalizes these inner states, rendering them as objective realities. However, this phase, led by beliefs, inevitably gives way to broader understandings. Initial environments function as transitional classrooms, where consciousness grasps its ability to shape reality. Gradually, individuals come to realize that these forms are self-created rather than absolute truths, leading to increased fluidity in manifestation abilities. Recognizing this perspective can transform how we approach our current lives in relation to death. Preparation entails examining and refining our core beliefs about existence. Fears can manifest corresponding experiences during the transition, while liberating beliefs open pathways to expansive experiences. The implications of this understanding extend into daily life. If consciousness shapes post-death reality through expectation, then this creative force similarly influences our present experiences in subtle, often unnoticed ways. Consider the progression. First, the silver cord detaches awareness from the body. Then, expectation shapes initial encounters. And finally, the realization of personal creative power emerges. Each stage builds towards something truly extraordinary. This lays the groundwork for Seth's next insight regarding familiar appearances in the afterlife. If consciousness creates environments aligned with expectations, how do we explain encounters with departed loved ones appearing just as they did in life? Why do dead relatives always appear middle-aged or young in afterlife encounters? Seth explains this as camouflage, conscious spirits deliberately adopting familiar forms to ease your transition. These appearances aren't random accidents, but carefully chosen interfaces designed for recognition and comfort. Near-death experiences consistently describe deceased loved ones looking healthier than at death. Grandparents appear decades younger, sick relatives glow with vitality. This defies biological reality, but serves psychological purpose. Imagine your shock if a decayed corpse form greeted you upon crossing over. The mind needs bridges between physical and non-physical perception. Seth describes these forms as thought clothing. Consciousness wears temporary imagery like actors wearing costumes. Your deceased father appears bearded because that's how you best remember him. A childhood home materializes because its blueprint exists clearest in your memory. These facsimiles aren't deceptions, but transitional adaptations. The mechanics work through mental resonance. In early afterlife stages, strong emotional imprints manifest as physical-seeming forms. A mother's love for her child projects as arms that can hug. Shared memories become walkable landscapes. Thought converts directly into sensory experience. During this adjustment period, this explains why afterlife environments often resemble earthly locations. Gardens, libraries, and meeting halls feature prominently across near-death accounts. These are mental touchstones helping consciousness adapt to its new creative capacity. Just as architects use models before constructing buildings, the mind builds afterlife spaces using familiar blueprints. The camouflage principle extends beyond individual encounters. Group afterlife scenarios, religious heavens, ancestral villages form collective thought constructions. Multiple consciousnesses co-create shared environments through mutual expectation. A Christian prayer circle might generate a church-like space, while a shamanic circle manifests a spirit lodge. Progression follows a predictable pattern. Initial contact uses heavy camouflage, detailed faces, clothes, props. As consciousness stabilizes, these forms become more translucent. Solid-seeming bodies begin glowing. Fixed environments start shifting fluidly. Eventually, pure energy communication replaces physical metaphors altogether. Advanced beings manipulate these appearances consciously. An enlightened guide might take, or momentarily, to deliver a message, then dissolve into light. They understand these projections as educational tools rather than absolute realities. The most evolved consciousnesses use camouflage like teachers using visual aids, temporary illustrations for concrete minds. Notice the evolutionary design at work. First belief shapes your initial environment. Then departed loved ones appear in recognizable forms. Next, you realize these forms are changeable thought constructs. The afterlife carefully teaches consciousness about its own creative potential through graduated revelations. This explains many haunting phenomena, spirits appearing in period clothing or repeating familiar actions. These represent consciousness, temporarily stuck using old self-images. Just as people wake gradually from dreams, some take longer realizing their new form-building power. Their camouflage becomes a crutch rather than a tool. Understanding this demystifies religious iconography. Winged angels and dark demons reflect cultural camouflage archetypes. Divine figures appear differently in Hindu art versus Christian stained glass because human expectation sculpts the forms. The underlying consciousness remains constant behind shifting imagery. Two practical implications emerge. First, fearing judgment scenarios is unnecessary. You'll manifest what helps your transition. Second, meditation on formless awareness now prepares you for higher afterlife states later. Training your mind to recognize pure consciousness beyond images accelerates post-death adaptation. Now consider the communication methods possible once you see through temporary forms. If voices and bodies are just thought clothing, how do beings exchange meaning in pure consciousness states? The answer lies beyond language. This sets the stage for Seth's next revelation about telepathic communication. When familiar forms dissolve, direct mind-to-mind contact replaces physical senses. Imagine knowing a person's full experience without words, every memory, emotion, and intention transmitted instantly as complete concepts. That's communication without camouflage. How do you communicate when language can't contain what needs to be said? Seth describes a direct thought transfer, not just words spoken mind to mind, but complete concepts delivered whole. Your deepest questions receive answers before you finish forming them. Every nuance translates perfectly without filters. Earthly communication limits understanding. Words reduce complex experiences to linear sequences. Tone and body language add layers, but gaps remain. Telepathy eliminates these barriers. Imagine receiving someone's memory not as a story, but as the full sensory replay. Their childhood joy, grief's weight, every pivotal moment downloaded instantly. Near-death experiences regularly report this phenomenon. People describe encounters where beings respond to unspoken thoughts. Complex ideas transmit faster than speech allows. A single exchange carries what would take hours to explain verbally. This explains why brief afterlife encounters feel profoundly educational. Entire lessons arrive in conceptual bursts. Soul families communicate through patterned energy signatures. You recognize others, not by faces or names, but by vibrational imprints, unique consciousness frequencies. These act like spiritual fingerprints linking identities across lifetimes. Someone might transmit their essence signature, causing you to recall multiple shared incarnations simultaneously. Falsehood becomes impossible in pure thought exchange. You can't hide intentions when your mental landscape is visible. This creates radical transparency, communication without manipulation. Guides demonstrate ideas through experiential simulations rather than arguments. Want to understand compassion? You temporarily become another being, feeling their struggles directly. 3 factors determine connection depth. First, resonance, how closely your energy patterns align. Second, clarity, your capacity to send and receive undistorted thoughts. Third, intention, what you consciously choose to share. Unlike forced mind reading, this is consensual consciousness communion. This explains certain afterlife encounters. Children sometimes describe meeting imaginary friends who later match deceased relatives' descriptions. The connection occurred through pure thought before the child developed verbal filters. Similarly, deathbed visions often feature silent exchanges where the dying appear to converse without speaking. Non-physical guides use layered transmission methods. They might send a core thought wrapped in visual metaphors tailored to your understanding. Advanced concepts arrive as editable thought forms, mental models you can rotate and explore from all angles before absorbing. It's education through direct experience rather than memorization. The implications transform how we view relationships. If telepathy is our natural state, then personality conflicts often stem from translation errors in physical communication. Arguments dissolve when you fully experience another's perspective. Small talk disappears when every exchange carries existential weight. This telepathic network connects incarnated and discarnate beings. You might send thought forms to physical loved ones during dreams. Relatives in spirit transmit comfort during crises. These interactions leave subtle traces, sudden inspirations, gut feelings, or dreams with unusual clarity. Language becomes unnecessary as consciousness expands. Early afterlife stages might retain speech patterns temporarily. Gradually, thinking in separated concepts feels as slow as spelling out each letter of a word. Pure knowing replaces the need for internal dialogue. The system mirrors how neurons communicate, not with words but patterned pulses. Your brain already uses this language internally. After death, you simply extend the same process outward. What we call intuition now is undeveloped telepathy peeking through physical limitations. Telepathic clarity depends on emotional state, much like radio reception depends on atmospheric conditions. Heavy emotions create static. Stillness provides clear channels. This explains why meditators and the newly deceased often report the clearest connections. Their inner noise subsides. The web of consciousness links all beings through this silent conversation. Some strands glow brighter where love creates strong bonds. Others appear faint where connections weaken through neglect. But no thread ever fully severs, only our attention wavers. Now observe the emerging map. First form fades, then camouflage. Dissolves, revealing thought's creative power. Communication becomes direct. This progression leads somewhere unexpected, specialized territories where consciousness evolves through focused experience. The afterlife isn't one place, but many. The afterlife isn't a single destination, it's a spectrum of consciousness territories. Seth describes 3 distinct yet interconnected realms you'll navigate after death. Each serves specific evolutionary purposes. The first territory acts as a decompression chamber. Here, thought instantly manifests as physical seeming reality. If you imagine a chair, it appears. Homes materialize from memory. This realm helps consciousness adjust to its new creative power. Near-death experiences often capture glimpses, flowered fields, crystal cities, all generated by collective expectation. These aren't fixed places, but shared thought projections. Time operates differently here. You might experience 10 years in what clocks measure as 10 minutes, or spend what feels like an afternoon in a garden, later realizing decades passed. Duration depends on focus. Deep engagement stretches subjective time. Distraction compresses it. This explains why some afterlife accounts describe lengthy adventures during brief clinical death. The second territory functions as a learning center. Here you analyze completed lives and explore alternate choices. Interactive memory projections let you replay events from others' perspectives. Want to understand your father's actions? You'll experience his childhood traumas firsthand. These aren't punishments, but immersive lessons in causality. Groups with shared karmic themes often study together. A soul who caused wartime suffering might join others exploring conflict resolution. Those who neglected creativity could attend manifestation workshops. The curriculum matches individual growth needs. Think of it as cosmic vocational training, skill building for next incarnations. The third territory serves as a planning zone. Here, consciousness evaluates potential future lifetimes. You don't just pick a body and era, you preview probable life trajectories. Each appears as branching pathways radiating from decision points. The process resembles testing video game. Character builds before starting play. Advanced guides help navigate these options. They highlight growth opportunities within each potential life scenario. A soul might reject an easy path, favoring one with specific challenges, say, poverty to develop resilience. The selections follow soul contracts made with other beings. That stranger destined to change your life. You likely co-planned the encounter between lives. All three territories share one crucial feature. They're mind states, not physical locations. The places are consciousness constructs facilitating specific experiences. Just as dreams use imagery to process emotions, afterlife realms use environmental metaphors to structure non-physical learning. Progression through them isn't linear. You might revisit the first territory's manifestation lessons after advanced planning work. Consciousness flows between states as needed. Some beings spend centuries in joyful creation within the first realm. Others move quickly to rigorous study. There's no standard timetable, only individual readiness. The territories also interact with physical reality. Thoughts from the second realm might inspire living artists. Planning zone decisions influence genetic mutations. This constant cross-dimensional feedback shapes both spiritual and material evolution. Notice the elegant design. Initial adjustment transitions into focused education, then conscious rebirth planning. Each territory prepares you for the next phase of existence. Whether you linger in creative play or pursue intensive growth depends on your spiritual maturity. These realms explain many afterlife contradictions. Cultural differences arise because groups co-create varying thought environments. Near-death variations reflect which territory the experiencer breached. The full journey encompasses all three in sequences unique to each consciousness. Physical. Life appears different when you realize it's bookended by these vast learning states. Your current struggles may be classroom assignments you authored. That recurring problem could be a targeted soul lesson. Even random encounters likely stem from between-life planning sessions. Now consider time's fluidity in these realms. If thoughts construct reality and duration is variable, what happens when multiple consciousnesses intersect across different times? The implications shatter linear assumptions about mortality and connection. This sets the stage for Seth's next revelation, how simultaneous contact occurs between those who died centuries apart and those still living. When time becomes permeable, all moments exist concurrently. The departed aren't lost in the past. They're accessible now through consciousness's non-local nature. The territories reveal death's secret purpose. It's not an ending, but a transfer between educational environments. You'll progress through these realms not once, but cyclically across incarnations. Each visit offers deeper mastery of reality creation. Physical life becomes the practice field for lessons learned between lives. Here's how time unravels after death. Seth describes a reality where chronological sequence becomes optional, where you might consult a 12th century ancestor while simultaneously sensing your still living grandchildren's unborn children. This isn't time travel, it's the natural state of consciousness freed from linear constraints. Earthly time demands cause, precedes effect. After death, all moments exist like pages in a book, static, until you focus on them. Near-death experiences often report this shift. A drowning man sees his entire life unfold in perfect detail, yet also observes paramedics working on his body an hour later. Both experiences happen concurrently without contradiction. Multiple timelines interact freely. A woman might communicate with her deceased father while he simultaneously contacts her past self as a child. These aren't separate events, but facets of one continuous connection across temporal dimensions. Consciousness doesn't move through time, it touches various points at will. Memory functions differently in this state. Instead of recalling events sequentially, you experience them as interconnected patterns. The grief you caused someone in 1995 links directly to the compassion you showed a stranger in 2020. These aren't separate incidents, but threads in one tapestry. Time organizes itself by emotional resonance rather than calendar dates. This explains afterlife reports where multiple historical periods blend seamlessly. A medieval soldier might describe walking through modern hospitals while still reliving battlefield trauma. Both experiences remain equally vivid and present. Duration becomes flexible. A 5-minute conversation could contain lifetimes of shared understanding. Intention replaces clocks as the pacing mechanism. Want to explore Renaissance Italy? Your focus takes you there instantly. Need to review a 20th century lifetime? The entire span unfolds in whatever depth you choose. Some moments may feel expanded for study, others compressed like skipped chapters. You control the temporal zoom lens. Physical laws no longer apply. A being who died in 1800 could contribute ideas to a scientist born in 2000. The deceased don't exist in the past. They inhabit an eternal now intersecting all earthly timelines. This accounts for precognitive dreams and past life recall. Leaks. Between conscious states ignoring temporal boundaries, simultaneous contact explains many paranormal phenomena. When mourners sense a departed loved one's presence during funerals, that's literal synchronicity. The deceased experiencing the event alongside them from a timeless vantage point. The same consciousness attends its own memorial service while also existing in afterlife realms. Timelessness doesn't mean stasis. Progression still occurs, but it's qualitative rather than quantitative. A soul might deepen in wisdom without accumulating years. Learning happens through intensity of engagement rather than duration. An afternoon's insight could outweigh a century of passive existence. The living access this fluidity during dreams or meditation. Have you ever dreamed of deceased relatives who seem vitally present? That's actual contact occurring outside time's constraints. Your waking mind later struggles to reconcile the experience with linear expectations. Afterlife communication often defies temporal logic. Psychics report spirits referencing future technologies or events. These aren't predictions, but observations, from a vantage point where all developments already exist as possibilities. The future remains mutable, but its potentials are visible from beyond time. This transforms how we view death's permanence. Loved ones aren't frozen at their moment of passing. They continue evolving in realms where growth isn't measured in years, but in expanded awareness. A child who dies young may appear matured in subsequent contacts, not due to fictional aging, but conscious development. Time's fluidity makes the afterlife personally adaptive. If you need to review traumatic events slowly, subjective time expands for careful examination. When ready, decades can flash by in moments. The experience molds itself to your needs rather than enforcing rigid sequences. Multiple incarnations interact freely in this framework. Your medieval self might counsel your modern identity during crises. Past and future lives aren't isolated stories, but collaborative projects viewed from a higher perspective. The soul learns from all its expressions at once. Now consider specialized environments where this timeless consciousness organizes for advanced study. If death dissolves temporal limits, what structured learning becomes possible when freed from clocks and calendars? This leads directly into Seth's description of development centers, schools where souls master reality's mechanics. Here, education happens not through semesters, but through direct experiential immersion. A single session might integrate lessons that would take lifetimes to grasp physically. Where do consciousnesses go to hone the art of reality creation? Enter the fascinating realm of development centers. Imagine interdimensional schools where souls delve into the intricate mechanics of the universe. These aren't your typical classrooms. They are vibrant thought environments where learning unfolds through direct, immersive experiences rather than dull lectures. Picture workshops where thoughts materialize in an instant. In the class on compassion, students might step into each other's shoes and embody life's struggles. In physics lessons, participants learn to manipulate gravitational fields with sheer intention. There are no textbooks here, only living simulations that adjust in real time based on student interactions. Mistakes? They transform into immediate feedback, guiding the learner rather than marking a failure. The focus is on practical mastery. Instead of debating philosophical ideas, students actively test them out. Curious about karma? Experience firsthand how certain actions create ripples across multiple lifetimes. Eager to understand collective consciousness? Dive into a temporary group mind and feel its dynamics unfold in real time. For those who progress further, advanced studies revolve around the architecture of reality itself, how consciousness architects stable worlds. These students practice creating subspaces with consistent physical laws that others can inhabit. Some specialize in techniques for linking dimensions, while others nurture new life potentials to inspire physical universes. These centers operate holographically. A single session could unravel layered lessons you'll explore across many incarnations. Ever had that sudden spark of inspiration that resolved a long-standing problem? That could be a nugget of wisdom from a development center finally manifesting in your physical life. Many scientific breakthroughs actually originate in these realms before they trickle down to earthly minds. Teaching methods here are tailored to meet each soul's unique needs. Visual learners might receive insights as brilliant geometries, while kinesthetic students engage by manipulating energy flows. Abstract thinkers are gifted pure mathematical constructs. It's a customized experience reflecting your most effective learning channels. Collaboration thrives in these centers. Souls gather by developmental resonance rather than arbitrary categories. Imagine a team made up of a 12th century monk, a future AI consciousness, and your present self, all working together on shared themes of growth. In these spaces, incarnational timelines are no boundaries for collective learning. A fundamental aspect of the curriculum is energy management. Souls learn to stabilize their vibrational signatures, crucial for clear manifestation. Advanced practitioners can hold multiple contradictory probabilities simultaneously without feeling dissonance, a vital skill for planning complex incarnations. The influence of these centers permeates earthly life. That dream where you conversed with your ancestors about important life choices, it was a real study session. Moments of déjà vu, often they signal development center activities merging with your waking awareness. Meditation can reconnect you with ongoing coursework, bridging the gap between realms. Curiously, physical scientists unknowingly mirror these methods. Quantum physics experiments resemble the beginner's exercises in reality creation, while psychological studies on intention echo the fundamentals of manifestation classes. The development centers seamlessly work through existing human systems. Progression in these centers isn't measured by time, but by skill milestones. Some souls may spend centuries in foundational courses, while others progress swiftly to specialized training. There's no one-size-fits-all timeline. It's all about individual readiness for increasingly intricate operations. Connectivity is at the heart of these centers, all interlinked by a dynamic living lattice. Information flows effortlessly, enriching all spaces instantaneously. This interconnection explains the cultural parallels found in mystical traditions. The separation of earthly groups belies their access to a singular non-physical educational source. Instructors here are diverse, consisting of enlightened beings and advanced peers. Some may appear as radiant guides, while others work indirectly through synchronicities and inspired thoughts. The richest lessons often come wrapped in personal insights rather than formal instruction. This all sheds light on the near-death experiences describing cities of light or libraries of knowledge. These images reflect the physical mind's attempts to interpret non-physical learning environments. What some perceive as buildings or books are actually concentrated thought structures designed for focused education. Consider your current struggles. They likely trace back to choices made in a development center. That challenging relationship, it's potentially a co-created growth assignment. The recurring obstacle, a targeted exercise for skill building. Instead of eliminating struggle, the centers optimize it for profound consciousness expansion. Now ponder where this education ultimately leads. Once you master the principles that govern reality, what is the pinnacle of application? The answer emerges in intentional rebirth, leveraging your training to design transformative incarnations. This sets the stage for an intriguing revelation: how graduates of these development centers choose their future paths. What criteria guide the selection of optimal incarnations? This intricate selection process uncovers profound truths about the evolution of consciousness itself. What if reincarnation isn't something that happens to you, but something you actively choose? Seth's material frames rebirth as a conscious selection process, not a karmic sentence, but a graduate-level curriculum designed by your own expanding awareness. The selection begins with value assessment. Your soul evaluates what qualities need strengthening, perhaps patience, creative expression, or leadership. These become filters for potential lifetimes. A soul lacking compassion might seek incarnations involving caregiving roles. One needing courage could choose conflict zones. The challenges aren't punishments, they're targeted growth opportunities. Multiple probable lives appear as branching pathways. Each represents possible embodiment scenarios where your core lessons could unfold. You don't select single fates but experiential clusters, groupings of similar challenges with variable outcomes. Think of it like choosing a college major rather than predetermined career steps. The general direction is set, but specifics remain flexible. Soul groups collaborate on these choices. The people destined to impact your life, parents, partners, enemies, aren't random encounters. You co-created these connections between lives. Their roles were negotiated to maximize mutual growth. That difficult boss or estranged sibling likely agreed to play that part in your soul's unfolding drama. The selection process involves experiential previews. You don't just read about potential lives, you temporarily inhabit probable versions of those futures. Want to test being a 22nd century scientist? You'll sample that consciousness stream briefly before deciding. These trial runs help assess if a life path offers the right intensity of lessons without being crushing. Environmental factors matter. Some souls choose famine eras to master resilience. Others pick technological ages to explore innovation. The historical period forms a curriculum framework. The societal norms and challenges become the classroom for your chosen lessons. This explains why some feel out of sync with their era. They're working on timeless soul assignments. Physical attributes are selected intentionally. A soul wanting to overcome prejudice might choose a marginalized body. One learning self-worth could pick exceptional beauty to resist vanity traps. Even genetic conditions are often accepted as part of larger growth contracts, not punishments, but carefully calibrated teaching tools. Free will remains operational within chosen frameworks. You select life parameters, not predetermined outcomes. Like a game designer establishing rules, but not controlling player choices. The soul sets boundary conditions, while the incarnated self navigates within them. Each decision point branches into new probability streams. Contracts can be renegotiated between lives. If a chosen path proves counterproductive, perhaps too harsh for actual growth, guides help adjust the trajectory. Sudden midlife course corrections often reflect these between-world interventions. What seems like random luck might be a rebalanced soul agreement. The planning accounts for alternative versions of you. Some probabilities remain active even after birth. You might shift between parallel selves during pivotal choices. This explains déjà vu and sudden intuition, glimpses of roads not taken that still exist in the multiverse of your consciousness. Higher self observes all variants simultaneously. While your earthly self experiences time linearly, your complete being watches. Multiple lifelines unfold concurrently. Major decisions create splits, where different versions of you live divergent outcomes, all equally valid, all contributing to soul education. Repetition occurs when lessons go unlearned. That recurring relationship pattern or persistent financial struggle signals incomplete soul curriculum. You'll keep encountering similar challenges across lifetimes until the core insight integrates. The themes themselves reveal what your consciousness is here to master. Physical amnesia serves a purpose. Entering life blank-slated allows authentic responses to challenges. If you remembered all between life planning, you'd perform growth exercises rather than live them. The veil makes lessons feel real, accelerating actual transformation. Now consider the review mechanism assessing these experiments. After each life concludes, how does consciousness evaluate its chosen curriculum's effectiveness? The answer lies beyond any religious judgment myth. It's a personal, experiential reckoning far more profound. This leads directly into Seth's description of the life review, not a courtroom sentencing, but an immersive learning technology. Here you don't just recall your actions. You relive them from every affected perspective simultaneously. A single, selfish choice might be experienced as all its rippling consequences across multiple lives. That's how consciousness measures real impact. Here's the so-called judgment you've been warned about. Except it isn't what religions described. Seth's life review bears no throne, no accuser, no sentence. Instead, you stand alone before the living mirror of your own actions. Every choice replays not as memory, but as present experience from all affected perspectives simultaneously. That harsh word to your child, you'll feel their wounded confusion as your own. The secret generosity towards a stranger, their startled gratitude floods through you too. This isn't punishment, it's direct education. The review operates like neurological feedback therapy for the soul. You finally grasp causality without filters. A single cruel remark might unfold as branching consequences, how it diminished someone's confidence for months, how they later misdirected that pain onto others. Justice becomes self-evident when you literally share the impacts you created. Time stretches and compresses based on significance. A decade of routine might pass in a breath, while one pivotal afternoon expands into lifetimes of examination. The system highlights what matters most for growth. Moments you considered trivial reveal hidden importance, while certain achievements show as distractions from core lessons. The process follows emotional resonance rather than chronology. Connected events across decades link together thematically. Your teenage betrayal connects to midlife consequences you never noticed. That rainy day kindness resurfaces as the seed of someone else's redemption decades later. The review reveals life as an intricate web of ripple effects, not a linear sequence. Guides may attend, but don't interfere. Their role resembles physicians, monitoring a patient's self-administered treatment. If certain experiences prove overwhelming, they help stabilize your energy field so integration continues. They never shield you from truths, only ensure you digest them safely. 3 disclosure levels operate simultaneously. First, personal impacts, how your actions affected individuals. Second, collective consequences, how societal patterns multiplied. Certain behaviors. Finally, soul curriculum, which planned lessons actually integrated versus those avoided. This multi-spectrum analysis reveals life's deeper architecture. The review feels hyper-real, more vivid than original experiences. You perceive subtleties missed in physical form, another's micro-expressions during your interaction, the chain of thoughts preceding their response. Even unconscious motivations become visible. The process strips away all self-deception. Surprisingly, shame rarely dominates. Though painful moments ache acutely, the overwhelming sensation is profound comprehension. Many report eventually feeling gratitude, even for difficult revelations, like solving an agonizing puzzle at last. The truth, however brutal, carries liberating clarity. Your higher self participates actively. While the incarnated perspective processes emotions, the expanded view contextualizes events within the soul's journey. That humiliating failure might be celebrated as a necessary breakthrough. From this vantage point, the review harmonizes earthly and eternal perspectives. Preparation begins now. Those who've practiced honest self-reflection transition smoother into the review. Meditation cultivates the witness consciousness needed to absorb difficult truths without crumbling. Those who avoided accountability face starker adjustments. The review's power lies in its participatory nature. This isn't a sentencing hearing, but a consciousness upgrade. By fully integrating every facet of your life's impact, you evolve beyond repeating old patterns. The process doesn't judge, it aligns. After completion, priorities reorganize. Instantly, trivial concerns permanently fade. Core values crystallize. Even before returning to physical life, your being recalibrates around authentic connection over superficial gains. The review rewires consciousness at fundamental levels. Now consider how this transforms daily conduct. If you knew every action would eventually be experienced from all sides, how might that reshape minor choices today? That impatient grocery line remark carries different weight when you'll one day receive its energy directly. This leads beyond philosophy into practical transformation. The life review isn't distant judgment. It's ongoing education you can engage now through conscious living. Each present moment offers micro-reviews if you pause to perceive multilaterally. The afterlife's great mirror merely removes all remaining filters. Notice how this differs from fear-based moral systems. No external damnation threatens, only guaranteed self-awareness. Ethical living becomes logical self-interest rather than obedience. The golden rule transforms from moral suggestion to observable mechanics of consciousness. Imagine knowing every careless word you speak will one day be felt directly through the recipient's nervous system. That's the practical weight of the life review. It transforms ethics from abstract concepts to physical inevitabilities. Your daily choices now carry new gravity when viewed through this lens. Small interactions reveal hidden depth. That sarcastic comment to a coworker. In the review, you'll experience their stomach dropping as the words land. The extra tip you left for a struggling waiter. You'll feel their momentary relief like sudden sunlight. These micro-impressions accumulate into life's true curriculum. The golden rule stops being poetic suggestion. It becomes mechanical fact. Treating others poorly literally means volunteering for future discomfort. Kindness becomes self-preservation. This knowledge shifts moral decisions from obligation to instinct, like refusing to touch a hot stove. Behavior changes naturally under this understanding. Road rage diminishes when you realize you'll eventually feel every honked-at drivers. Adrenaline spike. Office politics simplify when you remember you'll experience both the perpetrator and victim's perspectives equally. Even private thoughts matter. You'll eventually feel how your judgmental energy affected others subconsciously. Habits of blame dissolve. Knowing you'll experience conflicts from all sides highlights shared responsibility. That difficult. Relatives' behavior makes more sense when you recognize they're playing an agreed soul role. Every antagonist becomes a teacher wearing opposition's mask. Money decisions transform. Financial hoarding feels different when you'll experience a single mother's stress while choosing between your latte and her electricity bill. Generosity gains new appeal when you know you'll directly receive the joy it created downstream in someone's life. Digital interactions require scrutiny. That dismissive online comment threads differently when you'll relive the teenager reading it with trembling hands. Viral outrage loses its appeal when you remember you'll absorb all that collective anger from every target's perspective. Parenting takes on cosmic dimensions. Each impatient sigh with your child becomes an experience you'll receive through their developing nervous system. But so does every patient explanation. You'll eventually feel their dawning understanding as your own breakthrough. Workplace ethics clarify. Cutting corners looks riskier when you'll experience every customer affected by your shoddy product. Quiet integrity becomes attractive when you know you'll eventually feel the colleague inspired by your example. The life review makes karma visible. It's not mystical punishment, just simple cause and effect experienced from all angles. No external judge decides your pain points. Your own actions design the curriculum. This knowledge creates natural accountability. You stop needing rule books when consequences become tangible. The review isn't waiting for death, it's happening. Now in miniature through every empathetic moment. Each time you pause to consider another's perspective, you're rehearsing the afterlife's great mirror. Preparation happens through daily practice. Noticing when someone's eyes dim at your words trains review readiness. Observing how your presence affects room energy builds transitional skills. The afterlife's intensity requires earthly conditioning. This shifts death from something to fear into a continuation of current growth. Your present awareness becomes the bridge between dimensions. Every kind act now is future self-care. Every healed relationship is less to reconcile later. Now consider how this living review affects communication with those already beyond the veil. If your present choices resonate eternally, how might departed souls be attempting to guide you now? Their messages may be closer than you think. How do you distinguish real afterlife contact from imagination? Seth describes clear markers separating authentic communication from mental noise. The most common channel is dream states, not fuzzy recollections, but hyper-vivid encounters with departed loved ones who convey specific information unknown to the dreamer. These leave you waking with electric certainty, not confusion. Synchronicities form another validation method. You might suddenly smell a deceased grandmother's perfume while finding her favorite flower blooming out of season. The timing carries meaning. Perhaps on her birthday or during a family crisis. These aren't random coincidences, but targeted resonances. Energy signatures differ from mental projections. A true contact carries distinct vibrational quality, like recognizing someone's voice even when whispering. You'll feel their presence as a palpable shift in room atmosphere, often accompanied by temperature changes or electromagnetic fluctuations. Wishful thinking lacks this somatic component. Authentic messages often involve layered communication. A departed father might appear in a dream while his favorite song plays randomly at dawn, as your childhood home's deed surfaces during attic cleaning. The multidimensional approach ensures reception. Single-channel experiences are more likely. Imagined emotional states act as filters. Grief creates static that obscures contact, while calm openness enhances reception. The departed communicate easiest when you enter neutral awareness states, like the hypnagogic zone between sleep and wakefulness. Desperation often blocks the very connection seekers desire. Communicators adapt to your perception limits. A technologically minded person might receive messages through device glitches, clocks stopping at significant times, phones dialing old numbers autonomously. Spiritually inclined individuals get symbolic visions. The method matches your cognitive style. Cross-validation confirms real contact. Two relatives independently dreaming the same message from a deceased family member carries weight. A psychic, accurately describing your grandmother's unique ring that you've never photographed or discussed online, suggests more than coincidence. Physical mediumship follows specific energy rules. Table tipping or instrument playing requires collective concentrated energy from participants. These aren't parlor tricks, but measurable psychokinetic events under controlled conditions. The effects diminish when observers introduce skepticism, demonstrating consciousness's role. Afterlife communication often involves third-party verification. You might encounter a stranger who unknowingly delivers a precise message from your departed loved one, using phrases only they would say. These intermediaries have no way of accessing such specific knowledge normally. The content distinguishes true contact. Departed beings tend to share philosophical insights rather than trivial details. They emphasize love, forgiveness, and growth, not predictions about sports scores or lottery numbers. The messaging focuses on soul evolution over material concerns. Duration. Patterns matter. Fleeting maybe moments hold less weight than sustained encounters where communicators demonstrate consistent knowledge across multiple interactions. A true presence establishes recognizable continuity over time. Your body reacts before your mind registers contact. Many report sudden goosebumps, hair standing on end, or inexplicable emotional shifts preceding meaningful signs. These physiological responses often precede conscious recognition of communication attempts. Children perceive most clearly. Uncontaminated by skepticism, they regularly describe detailed interactions with deceased relatives invisible to adults. Their unprompted accounts often contain verifiable information they couldn't know, like naming great-grandparents they've never met. Authentic contact leaves transformational aftereffects. You don't just recall the experience, you're fundamentally changed by it. Skeptics abandon doubt, the grieving find peace. These encounters rewrite worldviews instantly and permanently. Testing weakens the signal. Requests for proof often disrupt the delicate energy required. Like trying to observe quantum particles, the act of measurement alters the phenomenon. The communications thrive in trust, not demand. Technology now bridges dimensions in unforeseen ways. Spirit boxes and ITC devices capture anomalous voice phenomena under controlled conditions, complex responses exceeding random chance. The machines don't create contact, but may amplify pre-existing energies. EVP recordings reveal linguistic patterns matching known personality traits. A deceased mother's voice might use unique regional dialects or nicknames. The content frequently addresses current situations unknown when the recording was made. Digital synchronicities increase globally. Many report deceased loved ones manipulating electronics, playlists shuffling to meaningful songs, presentation slides advancing autonomously to memorial images. These events cluster around significant dates. The emerging pattern suggests consciousness persists. These aren't scattered anomalies, but consistent phenomena across cultures and eras. The communication methods evolve with technology, while core mechanisms remain constant. Your doubt doesn't disable contact, it just filters your perception. The departed continue reaching out whether you acknowledge them or not. Their attempts persist like radio signals you haven't tuned your receiver to yet. Now consider what recent discoveries reveal about electromagnetic fields. If consciousness can influence technology from beyond, what physical bridges might explain this interaction? The answers could reshape how we view reality's architecture. What if the static on your radio isn't just interference? Seth suggested, consciousness interacts with electromagnetic fields in ways science is only beginning to understand. These energy patterns may form bridges between physical and non-physical reality, invisible pathways for communication across dimensions. During times of crisis, technology often behaves strangely. Phones dial deceased relatives' numbers autonomously. Radios switch stations to play meaningful songs. Computers display old photos no one uploaded. These anomalies cluster around moments of strong emotional charge, when grief or longing creates temporary openings between worlds. The phenomenon follows consistent patterns. Electronic voice phenomena recordings capture responses that statistically exceed random chance. Spirits allegedly manipulate these energy fields to form audible speech. The voices often reference current events unknown when recorded, suggesting real-time interaction rather than residual playback. Certain environmental conditions enhance this effect. Solar storms and geomagnetic fluctuations correlate with increased contact reports. The ionosphere's charged particles may act like amplifiers for consciousness signals. Some researchers note heightened activity during dawn hours when Earth's magnetic field shifts subtly. Simple devices work best. Analog technology like cassette recorders and tube TVs reportedly capture more anomalies than sophisticated digital systems. The cleaner energy pathways in older electronics might offer clearer channels. Complex processors introduce too much noise for subtle signals to penetrate. Telecommunication infrastructure accidentally facilitates contact. Phone calls from disconnected numbers sometimes carry familiar voices. Text messages arrive from impossible senders with precise personal references. These events suggest consciousness can piggyback on existing electromagnetic networks when conditions align. The human body acts as a transducer. Sensitives may feel buzzing or static when spirits attempt contact through nearby electronics. Others report headaches before technological anomalies occur, like biological early warning systems detecting energy shifts. Scientific experiments hint at the mechanism. Certain meditation practices demonstrably alter local electromagnetic fields. Consciousness appears capable of interacting with these energy patterns directly, bypassing physical interfaces. This suggests our thoughts might naturally modulate the same energies spirits manipulate. Emerging technology explores these boundaries. Spirit boxes scan radio frequencies rapidly, allowing potential communication through the white noise. Experimental apps use smartphone sensors to detect anomalous energy fluctuations during supposed contact events. The results remain debated but show intriguing patterns. The implications challenge materialist views. If consciousness can influence electromagnetic fields after bodily death, the distinction between mind and matter blurs. Our devices might not just be tools, but potential conduits for interdimensional exchange under the right conditions. Seth described these interactions as natural physics, not paranormal events. Just as dolphins use sonar frequencies beyond human hearing, discarnate consciousness may communicate through energetic spectra our instruments barely detect. The phenomenon would seem mysterious only because we're measuring the wrong variables. Personal receptivity matters. Those in balanced emotional states report clearer technological contact than distressed individuals. Fear and skepticism appear to disrupt the delicate energy required. The calm focus of scientific inquiry ironically creates better conditions than desperate seeking. Every home contains potential contact points. Old family radios, childhood toys with recording features, even malfunctioning light bulbs might briefly bridge worlds during energy surges. The ordinary becomes extraordinary when viewed through this lens. Modern life bombards us with electromagnetic noise that likely drowns subtle signals. Rural areas with minimal interference report higher incidence of technological contact. This suggests our infrastructure inadvertently blocks as much as it enables. The next generation of ghost hunters uses spectrum analyzers and EMF detectors rather than Ouija boards. Their equipment measures fluctuations during alleged hauntings, finding consistent anomalies around historical frequencies used for early radio transmission. The past's discarded technologies might still carry voices. This changes how we interpret device glitches. That frozen phone screen displaying a deceased loved one's photo could be more than random malfunction. The printer spitting out childhood images might carry intentional weight. Technology's errors may sometimes be features we don't yet understand. If electromagnetic fields form the substrate for consciousness interaction, then death doesn't mean disappearance, just transition to another frequency range. Our world remains permeable to those who've learned to modulate these energies from the other side. Now consider how this reshapes end-of-life preparation. If technology can bridge worlds, what thought technologies might we develop to ease our own transitions? The barriers between here and there may be thinner than appearances suggest. Understanding this electromagnetic dimension invites practical exploration. You don't need special gear, just curiosity about anomalies in your existing devices. The answers won't come through force, but through patient attention to patterns most dismiss as glitches. The static between stations might contain more than random noise. Those flickering streetlights could be more than faulty wiring. Our electrically illuminated world flickers with potential connections if we learn to interpret the signs. Now imagine applying this knowledge to transform primal fears. If death is merely migration across energy spectra, how might that shift your relationship to mortality itself? The electromagnetic bridge suggests continuity where culture insists on finality. Your fear of death isn't natural, it's learned. Seth reveals how cultural conditioning paints transition as annihilation rather than expansion. But belief isn't fixed. You can reprogram your expectations now to transform what comes later. Mainstream. Afterlife imagery serves as psychological conditioning. Fire and brimstone sermons implant judgment scenarios. Horror films equate death with suffering. These become self-fulfilling prophecies. Consciousness manifests what it expects to encounter. Your current beliefs are already shaping your post-death experience, like invisible architects. The shift starts with language. Stop calling it death. That implies finality. Seth uses terms like transition or consciousness migration. This isn't wordplay. Neuro-linguistic research shows language structures thought. The metaphors you use literally reshape neural pathways over time. Examine your visual assumptions. When you picture afterlife, do you see static heavens or dynamic learning environments? Religious art has misled us with simplistic throne rooms and harp-filled clouds. Authentic accounts describe realms where consciousness evolves through experience. More university than waiting room. Fear-based beliefs create unnecessary obstacles. People terrified of judgment manifest self-created trial scenarios upon crossing over. Those expecting nothingness briefly experience void states before realizing their error. Your transition mirrors your deepest assumptions about existence itself. Children demonstrate natural understanding. Uncontaminated by cultural programming, they often describe death as changing rooms or waking up from a dream. Their spontaneous metaphors align closely with Seth's descriptions of fluid consciousness states. Adults unlearn this through fear conditioning. Practical preparation begins in imagination. Regular visualization of positive transition scenarios rewires expectations. Try mentally rehearsing detachment from your body with curiosity rather than dread. Imagine loved ones greeting you in radiant form. These exercises aren't fantasy, they're neural rehearsals for actual events. Meditation accelerates the shift. Stillness teaches consciousness to recognize itself independent of physical form. Advanced practitioners often report losing fear of death spontaneously, not through belief, but direct experience of formless awareness. The body becomes temporary housing rather than identity. Cultural deprogramming matters. Notice how media portrays dying as tragedy rather than transformation. Counter these messages consciously. When a film shows death as painful separation, mentally reframe it as conscious expansion. Your subconscious absorbs these corrections over time. The dying process reflects this shift. Those who view death as continuation often experience peaceful transitions. Fearful individuals frequently endure more difficult passings, not as punishment, but because resistance creates friction. Your approach determines the difficulty level. Quantum physics hints at why this works. Observation affects reality at fundamental levels. If consciousness shapes subatomic behavior, why wouldn't it influence post-death experience too? Your expectations may literally organize energetic reality. Near-death experiences confirm the pattern. Those who expected nothingness often describe initial void states before realizing their error. People anticipating judgment encounter self-created tribunals until they recognize no external judge exists. Belief manifests as temporary reality. Energy follows attention. Chronic death anxiety keeps you vibrating at frequencies aligned with fearful experiences. Conscious redirection to expansion-focused thoughts raises your resonance. This isn't mysticism, it's energy mechanics. Deathbed visions demonstrate the transition. Many dying patients begin seeing deceased loved ones days before passing. These aren't hallucinations, but early perceptions of the next state. Their expectation of reunion literally summons the experience. Consciousness never stops creating. Just as you currently manifest daily reality through focus and assumption, you'll continue doing so after transition. The mechanism stays the same, only the playground changes. This revolutionizes grief. Missing loved ones becomes different when you realize they're not gone, just communicating through unfamiliar channels. Your mourning energy may actually disrupt their attempts to contact you. The ultimate preparation is creative awakening. If imagination builds afterlife reality, then cultivating visionary skills now pays compounding dividends later. Artists and innovators often adapt quickest post-transition. They're already fluent in manifestation. Fear collapses when you realize death is graduation, not termination. The actual danger isn't dying, it's arriving unprepared and disoriented. Because of false beliefs, conscious exploration prevents unnecessary suffering. Now consider the ultimate implication. If imagination creates reality here and shapes afterlife experiences there, what does that say about consciousness itself? The bridge between Seth and Neville Goddard's teachings suddenly appears. Their shared secret reveals death's true nature. What if death isn't the end of imagination's power, but the ultimate test of it? Seth and Neville Goddard agreed on one radical truth. Consciousness doesn't just perceive reality, it creates it, not only here, but beyond. The afterlife isn't a predetermined destination. It's the final canvas where your beliefs paint entire worlds. Goddard insisted imagination builds reality through focused desire. Seth revealed this continues after death, just without physical limits. Your first moments beyond the body will reflect exactly what you expect to find. If you believe in judgment, you'll manifest courtroom dramas. If you expect nothingness, you'll generate void states. The mechanism never stops working. This explains why near-death experiences vary so widely. A Christian child sees Jesus, while a Buddhist encounters bardo states. Each person's consciousness instantly materializes imagery matching their spiritual vocabulary. These aren't different afterlives, just customized entry points into non-physical reality. Goddard called this the world mirroring your assumptions. Seth described it as belief-forming initial environments. The systems align perfectly. What Goddard taught about manifesting desires through imagination, Seth applied to post-death reality creation. Your current mental habits train you for the transition. Those skilled in conscious manifestation adapt quickest beyond the body. Death strips away physical limitations, but not creative power. Without a brain to filter thoughts, imagination operates at full capacity. Mild fantasies here become solid. Realities there. This explains why negative beliefs cause unnecessary suffering during transition. Fearful thoughts manifest instantly. Both teachers emphasize responsibility over victimhood. If you create your afterlife experience, then fear of death becomes fear of your own mind's creations. The solution isn't petitioning gods, but upgrading expectations. Your imagination is the only sculptor of post-death realities. The Life Review demonstrates this principle. You don't face external judgment, you experience self-created consequences directly. Every action replays from affected perspectives. Because your consciousness generates the entire simulation, there's no projector, but your own awareness. Development centers take it further. These afterlife schools teach consciousness to manifest with increasing precision. Beginners work with basic thought forms. Masters co-create entire dimensional planes. The curriculum never ends because imagination's potential is infinite. Reincarnation choices reveal deeper layers. When selecting future lives, you preview probable selves like an author considering story arcs. The selection process is creative play, not karmic sentencing. You're both writer and character in an ongoing epic. Telepathy replaces language because imagination communicates purely, shared. Thoughts transmit as complete concepts, unfiltered by words. This is why deceased loved ones can convey complex emotions instantly. They're projecting raw experience directly into your mind. Electromagnetic phenomena bridge dimensions because consciousness modulates energy fields. Your thoughts already influence matter subtly. After transition, this ability amplifies. Technology glitches during hauntings demonstrate imagination operating through physics. The implications are staggering. Your current imaginative habits are training wheels for eternity. Every visualization exercise is rehearsal for reality creation beyond the body. Artists and innovators aren't just entertaining, they're preparing for advanced afterlife states. Fear, dissolves when you grasp this. Death isn't a leap into the unknown, but a homecoming to your native creative power. The only judgment comes from finally seeing your thoughts manifested concretely. The only heaven or hell is what you've already been imagining daily. Now check your assumptions. When you think of afterlife, what images arise? Those are the seeds of your actual experience. Change the mental pictures now, and you rewire your post-death trajectory. This is Goddard's revision technique, applied to dying. The bridge between teachings is complete. What begins as earthly manifestation practice becomes cosmic reality engineering. Death isn't an ending, it's promotion to full creator status. Your imagination graduates from influencing a physical life to generating entire planes of existence. This final initiation awaits everyone. Whether it feels like ecstasy or terror depends solely on your current creative discipline. Those who master their imagination here transition smoothly. Those who let it run wild may face chaotic manifestations. The choice is always yours. Time's running out, but not in the way you think. Every moment alive is precious practice for the infinite creativity ahead. Stop fearing the afterlife and start designing it consciously. Your next chapter's first draft is already being written in the pages of today's imaginings. The great secret stands revealed. Death doesn't limit your power, it unlocks imagination's full potential. What you've called dying is actually awakening into your true nature as eternal creator. The show never ends. You just change stages. Now ask yourself, what worlds will you build when all limits vanish? The answer begins with what you're imagining right now, that casual daydream. It's the blueprint of things to come. The afterlife isn't a place you go, it's what you create when nothing stands between thought and manifestation. That persistent vision you can't shake, the recurring daydream that feels more real than daily life, that's not escapism. It's your soul rehearsing for its next great work. Death is merely removing the veil between imagination and instant creation. Your true creative potential has yet to be seen, but it's coming. The transition isn't an end, it's the ultimate beginning. What we call death is simply waking up. Your consciousness doesn't end, it graduates. The limiting filters of physical reality dissolve, revealing your true creative power. You become what you've always been, an eternal architect of experience. The journey continues, but with expanded awareness. You'll guide and be guided, teach and be taught. The relationships you thought were lost simply change form. The love remains, flowing through new channels. Now it's your turn. Look at life differently. See death not as an ending, but as the next great adventure. How does this shift your perspective today? Tell us in the comments. Your story is just beginning.